The world is full of dualities, light and dark, good and evil, joy and sorrow. These opposing forces shape our understanding of reality. However, for Buddhists, there is another way to perceive the world, one that transcends these dualities. This perspective is known as non-duality, and it lies at the heart of Buddhist philosophy. In Buddhism, duality refers to the conceptual division or distinction between opposing or contrasting elements, often characterized by the separation of concepts such as self and other, good and bad, right and wrong, or any other dualistic pairs. Duality is deeply rooted in the way the human mind categorizes and comprehends the world. It is a cognitive framework that influences how we perceive and interact with reality. Duality in Buddhism is considered a source of suffering and delusion. The Buddha's teachings emphasize the understanding that the ultimate truth transcends dualistic thinking. The concept of duality is closely related to the three marks of existence in Buddhism, which are impermanence, the recognition that all things are constantly changing and transient, which challenges the fixed nature of dualistic concepts. Suffering, the acknowledgement that attachment to dualistic views and desires leads to suffering, as these views are often rooted in craving and aversion. No self, the understanding that there is no permanent, unchanging self or ego, challenging the dualistic notion of a separate, enduring self. Buddhism teaches that duality is a construct of the conditioned mind and does not represent the true nature of reality. The path to enlightenment, according to Buddhist teachings, involves transcending dualistic thinking and realizing non-duality, where the boundaries between self and other, pleasure and pain, and all dualities are dissolved. Non-duality, or the absence of duality, is often associated with the experience of nirvana or enlightenment in Buddhism, where one perceives the interconnectedness of all things and experiences profound peace and liberation from suffering, knowing that these dualities are illusions. It's the realization that beyond these apparent opposites, there exists a unifying, transcendent reality. Non-duality asserts that everything is interconnected and part of a greater whole, which can be referred to as oneness or the absolute. In Buddhist thought, non-duality is closely associated with the concepts of emptiness and interdependence. Emptiness does not mean nothing, but rather the absence of inherent, independent existence. It suggests that everything arises in dependence on causes and conditions. Interdependence highlights the intricate web of relationships that bind all things. It asserts that nothing exists in isolation. Instead, everything is interconnected. This concept is often summed up in the famous Buddhist saying, "This is because that is. This is not because that is not." Non-duality in this context means recognizing that all dualities are expressions of the same underlying truth. There is no inherent distinction between self and other, good and bad, or subject and object. These divisions are creations of the egoic mind and serve to reinforce the illusion of separateness. To understand non-duality, it's crucial to explore the concept of separation and its profound connection to duality. Separation is the foundational idea that gives rise to dualistic thinking. Here's a closer look at this relationship. At the heart of separation is the egoic mind, the part of our consciousness that creates a sense of individual identity. The ego distinguishes self from other and establishes a boundary between the two. This boundary forms the basis for dualistic thinking. Dualistic thinking thrives on subject-object relationships. In a dualistic framework, you have the subject, the self, and the object, the other or the external world. This division is the basis for all dualities, such as good-bad, self-other, and us-them. With the perception of separation comes the tendency to judge. When we perceive something as other or separate from ourselves, we are more likely to evaluate it based on our beliefs, preferences, and biases. This judgment further reinforces the dualities we create. Dualistic thinking often leads to feelings of isolation. When we view ourselves as separate from the world, we may experience loneliness, alienation, and a sense of disconnection from others. Separation is often accompanied by fear. Fear arises from the belief that the other poses a potential threat or challenge to the self. This fear can manifest as defensiveness, competition, and even conflict between individuals, groups, or nations. It's essential to recognize that dualities are mental constructs created by the egoic mind. They are not inherent in the nature of reality, but are products of our perception. This realization is at the heart of non-duality. Non-duality challenges the illusion of separation at its core. It invites us to see beyond the dualities that arise from the ego's perception of division. In a non-dual framework, oneness replaces separation. Non-duality asserts that the ultimate reality is one of interconnectedness and unity. It suggests that all separations are illusory, and that, at the core, everything is interconnected. This perspective can dissolve the barriers created by separation. There is no inherent division. Non-duality challenges the inherent division between self and other. It suggests that the self is not a separate entity, but a part of the larger whole. This understanding can lead to a profound sense of oneness with all of existence. Non-duality encourages us to transcend fear and judgment by recognizing that what we perceive as other is, in truth, an extension of ourselves. This recognition can promote empathy, compassion, and understanding. By embracing non-duality, individuals and societies can also move toward a more unified and peaceful existence. The eradication of dualistic thinking can foster cooperation, harmony, and a sense of global interconnectedness. Experiencing non-duality is not a matter of intellectual understanding. It's a profound shift in perception and consciousness. It's not about erasing the dualistic world, but seeing through it to the underlying unity. Here are some ways to approach and experience non-duality. Number 1. Meditation. Meditation is a powerful tool for transcending dualistic thinking. By quieting the mind and becoming a witness to your thoughts and sensations, you can begin to recognize the interconnected nature of your experiences. Number 2. Contemplation. Reflecting on non-dual teachings and contemplating the illusion of separateness can help shift your perspective. Reading texts, like the Heart Sutra, which emphasizes the concept of emptiness, can be particularly illuminating. Number 3. Mindfulness. Practicing mindfulness involves being fully present in the moment without judgment. It can help you become aware of the dualistic thinking that arises in your daily life. By observing these thought patterns without attachment, you can begin to transcend them. Number 4. Self-inquiry. The practice of self-inquiry involves questioning the nature of the self and the world. By asking, "Who am I?" and examining your beliefs, you can uncover the illusory nature of the ego. Once you've begun to experience non-duality, the challenge is to integrate it into your daily life. Here are some practical steps to help you do just that. Number 1. Cultivate compassion. Non-duality is not about negating the dualistic world, but engaging with it from a place of compassion and love. Recognize the suffering in the world and seek to alleviate it where you can. Number 2. Let go of judgment. Practice non-judgment in your interactions with others and yourself. Release the need to label experiences as good or bad, and instead embrace them as part of the greater whole. Number 3. Embrace interconnectedness. Recognize the interdependence of all things. Every action you take ripples through the interconnected web of existence. Act with mindfulness and awareness of this fact. Number 4. See the self in others. Understand that the self you identify with is not separate from the selves of others. Treat others with the same respect and consideration you would want for yourself. Number 5. Be present. Practice being fully present in your daily life. Engage with each moment without preconceived notions or judgments. This can help you experience the unity of all things more profoundly. The principle of non-duality is not a rejection of duality, but an expansion of perspective. It invites us to see the underlying unity in a world of apparent division. By experiencing and practicing non-duality, we can transcend the limitations of dualistic thinking, reduce suffering, and cultivate a deep sense of interconnectedness and oneness with all of existence. Please subscribe if this video has added value for you, and watch this video next to learn how to create more meaning in your life.